All right, it's Thursday, and I want to talk about dealing with dangers and difficulties, and our focus for this day is on gun safety. All right? We're going to talk about gun safety. Perhaps you're asking, why is this preacher talking about gun safety? And why is he suggesting that we learn and that we teach our children about guns and gun safety? Maybe you don't own a gun, or you don't even like guns, or maybe you're afraid of guns. All even the more why you should know or have some knowledge of guns and gun safety. Now that's my take, so don't hate. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, we've already covered the first two areas that we'll be discussing for over the next few weeks. We've talked about personal safety. We've talked about home safety. And today we'll begin our discussion on guns and gun safety. We'll just scratch the surface. We're not going to get very deep, but I hope that you'll stay with us throughout the process. Guns are as American as apple pie, and it's not likely that they're going anywhere anytime soon. The right to bear arms is a constitutional right of every American. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every American should own a gun. Gun ownership is a very personal decision, and if one makes that choice, it should be made with a good understanding of the purpose of a gun and the responsibility that goes along with gun ownership. For now, I will try to stick with the issue of gun safety and address the political aspect of gun ownership, or what they call gun control, at a later time. And please understand me, I am not suggesting in any way whatsoever at all, that anyone own a gun or not own a gun. That's your personal choice. Nor am I here to push or promote guns or gun ownership. I'm not a member of the NRA and have no plans of joining the NRA. And what I personally think about guns or feel about guns is really not germane to this conversation. I believe that education and understanding of guns can go a long way in reducing gun violence, gun accidents, and gun injuries and deaths. One of our major problems is that the only education oftentimes that our children or even the adults are getting on guns is coming from the kooks and the criminals of society. I mean, otherwise, we have very little knowledge of guns. Unfortunately, for many of our children and adults, especially in urban areas, their first experience, or I should say our first experience, the first understanding of guns, is someone being robbed or killed. At some point in their life, our children could possibly come in contact with a gun, and it could happen through a friend, through a relative, whatever. And not that they were looking for it, they just might happen upon a gun. You may even have one in your home, in your purse, whatever. But since there's that possibility that our children could happen, let's say, upon a gun, I think it's important that we teach them about guns and teach them about gun safety, because there are so many guns out there. I mean, they are everywhere. They are everywhere. And our children, as well as ourselves, could very easily come in contact with a gun or a person with a gun. I hope to God that we're never confronted by a person with a gun. Amen. A person that may intend to do us harm. I hope and pray that we don't find ourselves in that kind of a situation. But after all, you know, people can find discarded guns. People can discover hidden guns. And some people decide for personal protection or for other purposes that they want a gun or feel like they need a gun. But for most of us, our exposure to guns and knowledge of guns has been very negative and very limited, and from only one point of view, and that's violence. Our understanding of guns and gun ownership is something that people use as instruments to rob, to steal, to kill, and that only bad people own and use guns. And that's a very narrow and misguided point of view. There is nothing, listen to me, there is nothing inherently wrong with guns. But there is something very wrong with how people use guns. I believe it is important that we have a broader understanding of guns and understand that guns are used in many more non-violent ways than they are in violent ways. I mean, there's the sport of shooting, there's hunting, there's target shooting, recreational shooting, competitive shooting, there's gun collecting, and yes, there's the issue of owning a gun for home defense or for personal protection. It is a very small percentage of gun owners that use guns to commit acts of violence or domestic violence or to rob, to steal, or kill. That's the exception rather than the rule. There are more law-abiding citizens that own guns than there are criminals that have guns, which may be why the criminal attempts to break into our homes, into our cars, into our vehicles, and into our businesses to steal and to take our guns. As we talk about this idea of gun safety, at the very top of the list of lessons to learn on guns and gun safety is learning, we learn as adults, is learning and teaching our children to respect and honor the value and the sanctity of life. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That's where it begins. That's where we must start. We've got to start at learning to value life and respect the value of life and the sanctity of life. Let's learn that lesson first. That people are important. That life is important. And let us not find ourselves in a situation where we care no more about life than to try to take a person's life. I mean, the first lesson is about human life and life of any kind, really, and not just about guns. We've got to learn to respect people, respect life. And I believe that a good early conversation with our children about the importance of life, the preservation of life, respect for life, and the value of life is absolutely essential. I mean, even when you look at hunting or when you look at raising livestock, and most people that do this, that hunt, that raise livestock, they understand this, is that there should be a healthy respect and appreciation for the animals that sacrifice all to provide for you and me food, shelter, and clothing. Amen. Amen. Listen to me, people. You don't give a young boy, a young girl a BB gun or a slingshot or a rifle to kill birds or other animals just for the sake of killing. And I don't agree with anyone in the name of hunting, going out killing animals simply because they enjoy it or just for the sake of killing. I disagree with that. And I realize and I understand that we've had some very disturbing situations involving gun violence that continues to fuel the debate over guns and gun control in America. But my position is this: I am concerned about you and your children and what might happen to them or to us if we fail to teach them, if we fail to learn ourselves and teach our children about gun safety and gun responsibility. Please hear me. Guns are not limited to or exclusively used by gangsters and thieves and killers or demented and disturbed persons running wild in our society. I mean, everyday working class people, Christians, and other religious persons, and really the best of our society are gun owners. Again, I'm not promoting gun ownership. I'm not promoting guns. But I think it's important that we have an understanding and a sense of responsibility when it comes to guns and when it comes to gun ownership. Amen? Amen. Generally speaking, our perception and understanding of guns has nothing to do with the mindset or the behavior of millions of law-abiding citizens of our society. It has nothing to do with them. I mean, for the uninformed, Our opinions of guns usually come from a very small but very destructive and deadly segment of our society, which has basically poisoned our minds against guns. I mean, come on, make no mistake about it. In the hands of irresponsible, immature, untrained, mentally disturbed persons or criminals, and their use of guns as weapons in very dangerous and imminent threat. They are an imminent threat to society. There's no doubt about that. Of course, it's very much a concern for society, and it should be a concern for all Americans. When we have people who have no business with guns, who their motive is all wrong for owning a gun or possessing a gun. And if you will allow me, I would like to share just a few of my thoughts regarding guns and regarding gun safety. And I believe, and I truly believe, that if you would hear me and give some thought to what I'm talking about, again, I'm only going to scratch the surface, but I hope that it will spark something in you to take a closer look at this idea of guns in our society and gun ownership. But again, more than anything else, let us have our focus on life and the preservation of life. Now, understand that these thoughts are based on my knowledge of guns, my training with guns. They're based on my experiences and my experience with guns. But remember, this is my take. Okay? You have to make those decisions for yourself. All right? But I just want to throw a few things out there that hopefully will get us to thinking about this idea of guns and gun ownership and gun responsibility. I believe I mentioned this before in one of the other messages, that the first thing I want you to understand is this. Guns are not toys. Guns are not toys and should never be played with or handled irresponsibly. I say it again, guns are not toys. They are not something that we play with or that we handle irresponsibly. All right? They're not toys. It's for real. All right? Then on another note, every gun, are you hearing me? Every gun is a real gun and a dangerous weapon. Every gun. I don't care what it is. Every gun is a real gun. This is how I want you to see it. Every gun that you see, I want you to see it as a real gun. Are you hearing me? I don't care if it's purple. I don't care if it's hot pink. I don't care if it's bright blue, baby blue, navy blue. I don't care. Every gun you see it as a real gun and a dangerous weapon. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Listen, I'm just trying to get somebody saved, get somebody delivered from this, the dangers and the effects of gun and gun ownership. Every gun is a real gun. I don't care how much it looks like it's a toy. Now, if you don't believe that, ask your local police department. Ask them what they think about it. Stop a police officer on the street and ask them what they think about a gun that might be bright orange, that might be safety green. It doesn't matter. Every gun is a real gun. And it's a dangerous weapon. And that's how we're to see it, okay? Now listen. Assume that every gun is loaded. I'll say it again. Assume that every gun is loaded. Every gun that you see, assume that it is loaded. Listen to me. Regardless of who else inspects it and who else tells you that it is unloaded, do not allow anyone to hand you a gun and say that it is unloaded if you have not checked it for yourself. You inspect it, but only handle it if you know how to handle that particular gun. All right. Otherwise, it has no business in your hands. Okay. But assume that every gun you see is what? It's a real gun. Every gun you see is what? It's a loaded gun. And it's a dangerous gun. Okay. But when it comes to checking the gun, check it for yourself. Make sure that it's unloaded and safely check it for yourself. Again, if you don't know how to handle that particular gun, keep your hands off of it. Okay? Check every gun and unload every gun before you call yourself cleaning it. I don't know how many people have been injured, how many people have been killed, behind this idea that they were cleaning their weapon. You make sure that that gun is unloaded before you attempt to clean anything. Okay? Now, when storing a gun or when storing a weapon or your guns, never store a loaded gun. Never, ever load your gun. I'm not talking about you have one by your bedside for home defense or for personal protection. I mean, of course, you want it to be loaded. But I'm talking about when you just put it in storage, you put it up, you safely put it away. Never store a loaded gun and never store ammunition with a gun. Amen. So that if someone happens upon your gun, at least they have no ammunition to put in it, okay? I'm talking to when you store your guns or when you store a gun, if you happen to be a person who owns a gun, okay? Now, very important here, because so many people have been hurt, so many people have been killed with this thing. Never remove a gun from wherever you may have it, in your purse, on your person, in your vehicle, in your home. Never remove a gun to flash it, to show it off, or for any reason. Don't remove that gun for any reason other than to put it away, or if by some unfortunate circumstance you have to use it. You do not listen. I've never, you know that I've been in the military, I've been in law enforcement. I've never been one to draw my gun, listen, unnecessarily. You don't pull out, you don't play with guns. They're real, they're dangerous, they're deadly. Can be in the hands of people now, not by themselves, okay? Amen. But never remove a gun. And oftentimes when our children happen upon something or somebody else has a gun, they're trying to show it off, they're playing with it, and sometimes people get hurt, sometimes people get killed as a result of it. You don't flash your gun. You don't even, if I'm wearing a gun, if I happen to be wearing a gun and somebody sees it and says, that's a nice looking gun, let me take a look at it. I do not pull it out. I would not. Let me say it that way, because I think I'm kind of sounding like I do carry a gun. But listen, you would not pull that out to show to anybody. You don't pass it around. You don't play with guns like that. Do not remove that gun from its safe place unless you have a good reason to remove that gun from. Okay? Don't do it. It's very dangerous. It can be very deadly. Amen? Okay. All right. Thank you. Never, ever, ever, ever play with guns, and never fire guns around homes or neighborhoods. Guns are not toys. Don't be in there playing cowboys, trying to see how much you can spin the gun and put it back in your holster. I don't want you to shoot yourself in the head, okay? Do not play with guns. Do not play with guns in any manner. Not even playing like you're going to use it. Not even playing like you're going to use it on yourself or on anybody else. Do not play with guns. And never fire guns around homes or around neighborhoods. If you're not on the range, on a range somewhere where that's what it's designed for, then keep those guns safely put away. Okay? Let's get on down the line. And thank you so much for bearing with me. Listen to me. Please, 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 do not buy or allow your children to own, to play with, or to handle toy guns. Now, I got to tell you, when I was growing up, I had a gun like Wanted Dead or Alive, that little rifle looking, well, it was a rifle that had been cut off. I had, cowboy guns, 6-shooters and all that. I don't agree with that anymore. I don't think that we should buy our children toy guns, because remember, every gun is a real gun. And I don't believe that we ought to allow our children to handle guns, even if we call them toy guns. Again, if you don't believe what I'm saying, ask your local police department. Ask them how they will react when they see a young person or any person with what you may call a toy gun. Okay? Ask them. They'll tell you that in their minds, every gun is a real gun. Every gun is a loaded gun. Do not allow your children to play with or to handle what you call toy guns. Please don't do that. It's very dangerous and it can be deadly. Every gun, keep that in your mind, every gun If you don't remember anything else, remember these two things. Every gun is a real gun, and every gun is a loaded gun. Please, again, if you don't remember anything else, please remember that. Okay? All right, next. Listen, never produce a gun as a threat or a warning. Now, I'm giving you from my own personal experience, my own personal knowledge, and my own personal training. Please never produce a gun as a threat or a warning. I know what you see on TV. I understand that. I know what you see in real life with police officers. Pull the gun, stop, or I shoot. That's a warning. I don't believe in pulling guns for warnings. As a matter of fact, if you've been watching the news, a young woman, police officer, not long ago killed a man because she pulled what she claimed she thought was a stun gun or whatever it was, but it was a gun. She pulled it thinking she was going to warn him and ended up shooting and killing him. Are you hearing me? Never produce a gun. Even as a state trooper, even as a person in law enforcement, that is not something I did. If my gun came out, it came out for business and business alone. I don't believe, y'all gonna think terribly of me. I don't believe in warning shots. I don't believe in flashing guns. I don't believe in showing a gun to anybody, trying to threaten them or frighten them. I just don't believe in that. I believe that if I'm gonna pull a gun, it's time to do business. Okay? A gun, in my opinion, should only be removed from your person or from your home or from your vehicle or whatever if you are safely putting it away, or God forbid, you're pulling it to use to protect yourself and your family. Okay? All right. Listen. Never point a gun of any kind in the direction of a person, in the direction of a home or a building. Never point a gun in the direction of anyone. I don't care if you're inspecting the gun, you're checking it out, you're unloading it, whatever. I do not care. It does not matter. Do not point a gun, not even at yourself, at nobody. Do not, and I don't think I have to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, do not look down the barrel of a gun looking for anything. Do not do that. And do not point that gun. Remember those two things. I ask you to remember that every gun is a real gun. Every gun is a loaded gun. It's not a toy. It's nothing to be played with. Okay? So please hear me. Any gun left in the home. Now, I need you to hear me. I need you to listen to this part. Any gun left in the home should be safely and securely put away, but not hidden from the residents of that home. Not hide. Don't hide it. Put it away safely and securely, but don't hide it. And if a gun is to be used for home defense, make sure that although it is securely put away, that you can get to it and you're able to defend your home or defend yourself. All right? But don't hide. If you have a gun in your home, do not hide it. If you carry one in your vehicle, which I disagree with leaving one in your vehicle, but if you carry one in your vehicle when you're there, make sure that the people that normally ride with you, that they know where that gun is. They understand that it's a loaded gun, that it's a real gun, and they understand that. Make sure that nobody just happens upon it, not knowing that it was there, and then not knowing what to do with it once they discover that gun. Okay? Make sure that it's securely put away. But if it's in your home, in your vehicle, as far as your family is concerned, and those persons that are with you often, make sure that they understand. And really, it's a good idea to make sure that that they know how to use it, that they understand the mechanics of the gun, and we'll talk about that. But if you put a gun away and it's used for self-defense, make sure that you're able to get to it, even though it is securely and safely put away. Okay. Teach your children that if they should ever discover a gun anywhere, to leave it alone. Do not touch it and immediately report it to an adult. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Make sure that your child knows. I don't care wherever, if you ever discover a gun, I don't care if your pal at school carrying it, showing it off, you find it on the floor, you find it in the restroom, doesn't matter. Find it in the home, then you didn't know it was there, report it to an adult immediately. Do not touch it. Do not pick it up and take it to anybody and say, hey, look what I found. Leave it alone and immediately find an adult and report it to them. Don't even think about it. Listen, don't even think about, I wonder if it's a real gun. I wonder if it's a toy gun. There are no toy guns. Every gun is a real gun. Every gun is a loaded gun. Leave it alone and report it immediately to an adult. Do not bother it. Okay? All right. Do not leave guns unsecure in your home or in your vehicle or in such places as your purse, or cabinet, or dresser, your glove box, or your console, or under the seat. Don't leave guns in those places that are unsecure. Are you hearing me? Never, ever, ever do that. Never handle or allow your children to handle. Never. Not only do you not handle, but don't allow your children to handle what you call toy guns or replicas of guns, which means that are guns that look real, designed to look real, designed to feel real. Don't allow your children to handle any toy guns, nothing. Let me tell you something, and I'm gonna get, just kind of share some personal information right here. If I were to buy a gun for my child, I don't have young children, but if I had young children, if I were to buy a gun for my child or for my grandchild, I would buy them and give them, of course, teaching and preparing them and all of that, of course. But I would give my child or grandchild a real gun before I would give them a toy gun. Of course, I would teach them about responsibility and safety and all of that if I happen to do that. But I would not do that. Again, I grew up with toy guns. Also, I grew up discovering real guns in places that people thought they were hidden. Okay? I have handled guns when I should not have handled them because I found them somewhere. And I was curious, like young people are, like children are. I believe that's why it's important to teach and to educate our children up front. Okay? Every gun is a real gun, and it can be dangerous. Okay? If a gun is kept in your home or in your vehicle, and I believe I mentioned this before, everyone in that household should know the whereabouts of any gun in the home or taught how to safely handle that gun and how to use that gun. Otherwise, it has no business in your home. It has no business in your vehicle. Now, I'm talking about, mature people and responsible people. And there are obvious exceptions which makes a gun in the home or anywhere under any circumstances dangerous. And consideration should be given, and your decision should be depend on the mental state, the temperament, the maturity, the age of those in the home or those who have access to the home. Please remember that maturity and responsibility goes hand in hand with gun ownership. Are you hearing me? Listen, let me tell you something else. Do not buy or allow your children to watch extremely violent television shows and programs or use video games that involve shooting and killing. I know it's happening, and I know it's big business. I understand that. I know your children craving for those Xboxes and all of that. Why would you let your child sit around and play a game that looks so real, blood splattering everywhere, shooting and killing people, feeding all that in their mind? Why would you do that? I believe that it can dull their senses and diminish their respect for life. They think it's a game. But let me tell you something. Understand what I'm about to tell you, my friend. Killing should never be seen as a game. Never. Never, ever. And I totally disagree with us allowing our children, and it's not just the children. You got a whole lot of grown folk, a whole lot of brothers and sisters out there. I mean, this is big business, sitting around playing games, of killing, blood splattering everywhere. You're going to tell me that doesn't dull your senses, that doesn't influence you in some way? It does, my friend, whether you realize it or not. It does. It does. And I would not allow my children or my grandchildren to own or to watch, to be a part of that. Don't allow them to watch or listen to programming. Please hear me. Don't allow them to watch or listen to programming that glorifies the life of gangsters and criminals or the criminal acts of demented and sick people. They don't need to watch that, where gangsters are glorified and hailed for and celebrated for how many people they killed and for the violence they commit. That's not good, and that's not healthy. It's not only not healthy for your child, it's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for me. So don't expose your children to that. And make sure they understand that no matter where they go, who they visit, the same rules apply. Listen to me. There are many, many legitimate reasons, I believe, there are many, many legitimate reasons to own a gun. This is my personal view. But settling arguments, robbing, stealing, and killing are not on that list. Then finally, please consider the ramifications of owning and using a gun. It is not to be taken lightly. Now that's my take. So don't hate. What do you have to say? Sound off. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you joining me. We'll continue this discussion on next week. I hope you have a blessed and a safe week. And if I don't see you on Sunday, I look forward to seeing you by next Thursday. May God continue to bless you and keep you, is my prayer.